What's up, everybody? I'm Katie.
And I'm Morgan.
And this is For Your Misinformation, a podcast dedicated to empowering women to be more politically engaged so we can act in our own best interests.
Let us break down the problem and tell you what we're doing and what you can do to help solve it.
Hi, everybody. It's Katie. I have with me a very special guest today. His name is Nick, and
am I a friend? Am I a boss?
How do you want to, what do you want to be today?
I'm just Nick. I'm just doing...
Okay, great.
Yeah,
but I've talked about him before. He answers very patiently any and all of my questions, which is very nice. We're recording. This is the first episode we've done in person in a really, really, really long time. So we're recording on my screen porch with my kitten. So if you'd prefer to watch this on YouTube, it might be more fun to watch on YouTube. But do you remember, we met like right around a year ago. Do you remember the first time that we met?
Somewhat. So I used to work for Marie Newman in Illinois' 3rd District. And Marie Newman ran an incredible campaign. Not just because of me, but she ran against this horrible Democratic incumbent who was anti-choice, anti-LGBTQ, anti-immigrant, anti-worker, didn't really stand for any of the values we cared about. But the big thing was, it's different for everybody, but I wrote her policy. And so I did a lot of work on a number of issues. So Katie made her way into my inbox, wanted to connect on... I would think it was healthcare. I don't know. Yeah. So she came to the office. We chatted for a bit, and then started to volunteer.
Okay. So you meet a lot of people, so this is a really unfair question, but we met once before that at a house party for Marie that was actually like just down the street from here. That I heard her. Well, I met you, and I heard her speak. And I talked to you at the end of it, and I was like, "Hey, I have a master's degree in public health, and I have nothing to do. Like." It was like right after I'd moved home to take care of my mom, which like I was very much enjoying doing and still do, but it's like there's nothing for me to use my brain for, and I think I'm gonna like deteriorate if I don't get to do something soon. And I came in and you're like, great, you can phone bank or knock doors, and I was like,
end of list.
Right. And I was like, I really was hoping you would like want me to turn your policies into like summary pages, and you're like, oh no, we already did that. I was like, oh, okay. So I was like trying to line up a plan for what to do after I had my kidney surgery, because I knew I wouldn't be able to like knock doors or do anything like that. And that's when the idea for this podcast came about, and I was like, ooh, I think instead of like using 20 hours a week to volunteer for Marie Newman, I'm going to use that time to create this podcast. And ever since then, I've been like, Nick probably hates me. And also, I hope Marie Newman wins, because if she doesn't win and I decided not to volunteer for her, like, I would blame myself for that forever.
Yeah. Well, there's still time.
Oh my God, I know. That poll that just came out recently was very scary. Yeah. So Tuesday nights, actually, I guess let's get into that. So lately, Morgan and I have been talking about our actions like up at the top of the episode. So I've been doing a pretty good job of sticking to, on Thursdays, I've been phone banking to Sarah Gideon in Maine for Planned Parenthood votes. Starting this Tuesday, I'm going to start doing phone banking for Marie Newman, because what we were talking about is there's a poll that she was within like 2 or 3 points of her Republican opponent, which it would be so sad if you did all that work to get Marie to win that primary, and then oh my God. So anyway, can't wait to get started with that. And I'm like less nervous about that because they're my actual neighbors. Like, I don't know. I've been texting to like Texas and North Carolina and whatever. I got a little distracted. Part of the reason that we're doing this episode today is because I was texting to Texas, and I had like a QAnon believer in my
They
inbox.
walk among us.
They're
everywhere.
Yes. And I don't know. That's the like scariest part. They're in positions of power. Yep. They're going to Congress soon. It's so sad. Okay, so anyway, so that's 2 text banking shifts a week, and then I try to get in 2 or more 2 phone banking shifts a week. I try to get in 2 or more text banking shifts a week, and then I do at least 20 of the vote forward letters, so that I'm actually like already at 700. So how's my plan? Rate my volunteer plan.
Well, you're doing the absolute most.
Okay, thanks. Ideally, I think you would want me to maybe transfer some time to phone banking. Is that...
Ideally, I would like you on our phone banking every day of the week.
Got it. Okay.
But when you look at the data on it, this year of campaigns is really nothing like ever before.
Mm-hmm.
We can't knock on doors like we used to, so the next best thing is phone calls. And that's because of the person-to-person contact, having those conversations. Typically, when we make those calls and we connect with people, that can increase turnout anywhere between like 2 and 6%, depending on how persuasive the script is. And the more specific it gets with polling place information or information on early voting or vote by mail, that's even higher on the spectrum. So when we look at the country at large, there's so many races to engage in. But top thing, we have to flip the Senate.
Yeah.
In light of RBG and the new Supreme Court nominee, we really have to do all we can to protect our rights. There's a lot at stake.
Yeah. That was actually breaking news right before we started recording. Do you want to share who the Supreme Court nominee is going to be?
So it looks like Amy Coney Barrett is going to be the Supreme Court nominee. She is a typical Trump nominee. She is on the federal circuit for, I believe, the 7th Circuit, which covers all the cases out of Wisconsin, Illinois, and Indiana. She's frightening for a number of reasons, but namely, she is strongly conservative. She is anti-choice to the point of she wants to pretty much gut or nullify Roe v. Wade. Amy just sucks.
Yeah, no, it doesn't really matter, because like the precedents that Mitch set is that we don't vote for Supreme Court justices in election years, and that's like what he has to live with. So,
well, it's also terrible. Like, the court should not be politicized like this. It's equal justice under the law, and the way that McConnell has rammed all of these judicial nominees through and prevented other Democratic nominees, it's all about power. It's not about the safety of the country anymore.
Yeah. Yep.
And frankly, I don't think it ever really has been for him. 200,000 Americans dead from COVID. Doesn't want to call Senate back.
Right. So at this point, like, what we can do, it sounds like the path to make sure that this like doesn't go through is steep and narrow, but that it's just really important for our senators to know that we don't think that they should vote on this before the election or before there's a new president in place. So call your senators, email them, or text them. The easiest way, I think, is to text RBG to 50409. But if you like do your own personalized phone call, even better. Is that... What else can people do about RBG?
And call your Democratic senators, too. Because it's not just we need them to vote no on the nominee. We need them to oppose it until Inauguration Day.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because is it Dick Durbin who was kind of like, yeah, well, there's nothing we can do. And it's like, can you fight? Can you, like, try a little bit? Like, you're one of our 2 senators. Like, could you try a little harder? So, okay. Well, we can definitely do that. So Nick's main message is, if you have like the emotional capacity to do some more phone banking, please do it.
And it's not as frightening as people think.
It's really not. And you're talking to I'm one of the most anxious people that I know, and I don't really mind it even. So I think everybody can get into it. And what is the place that they should visit? I'll add it.
It's indivisible.org/phonebank.
Okay, indivisible.org/phonebank, and I will put it in our link tree and in the link to this bio. But when this comes out, there are 4 weeks to the election, or 29 days, however you'd prefer to think about it. Like, we need people phone banking. Okay. So I would like to talk about Satanic Panic, which might sound like it's like not really related to what's going on right now, but I think it is a little bit more than people think. So I'm going to talk Okay, it was basically like a phenomenon that swept through the world in like the 80s, and it had like a lot of similar themes to QAnon, which is like very concerning. But the themes that are like that connect it are like a cabal of like pedophiles, basically, that there's like an underworld of like pedophiles operating, and like the thing that makes really successful conspiracy theories like very successful is that they have a little bit of truth to them, and like that is a little bit true. Like Jeffrey Epstein really did get away with like a lot of really, really horrible stuff. To think that Donald Trump is the only one that can like bring that down, like that is, you're in like a fantasy land.
Well, duh. I mean, obviously it's only him.
Oh my God, it's so crazy. So yeah, I think I got really worried, especially when I was text banking. I think it was to Texas, and I got like more than one response that was calling Joe Biden a pedophile, and I think I texted you and was just like, what? Like, yep. This isn't, it's in the real world. Like, people, I don't know, the people that know a lot about Satanic Panic have kind of dismissed, like, they've seen the similarities, but they've kind of dismissed it as like, well, it hasn't broken into the mainstream. And as soon as I saw this stuff on like Reddit and like, no, I mean, shootings have been inspired. Like, real life stuff is happening. It's very scary.
The whole Pizzagate stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I don't know. QAnon people, or Satanic Panic people say that QAnon could elevate to that level if Trump wins re-election again. But, like, I totally disagree. Like, there's people text banking who believe it. There's people who like outwardly express it that are being elected to Congress, like left and right. I think there's like 19 or something Republicans who've like outwardly expressed support for QAnon and are now like nominees for Congress. And at least one is like definitely going to Congress. That woman in Georgia. It's awful. Okay, so yeah, I think QAnon is like even more dangerous. But also, okay, disclaimer. Everyone assumes conspiracy theories are like something that other people believe, but everybody is vulnerable to them. Like, most of us have beliefs that are consistent with conspiracy theories because our brains just like love to find patterns. But QAnon is obviously one that is not true. Trump has been linked to many pedophiles because he himself is a pedophile, just like Jeffrey Epstein was, and just like Alan Dershowitz and Ghislaine Maxwell are. Not because he is the only one that can like stop a cabal of elites who are molesting and trafficking children, but like that really is the conspiracy. And it's just interesting to see them like try and integrate like conflicting information. It's just, like,
it's so absurd.
Yeah, I mean, he did eventually stop talking to Jeffrey Epstein, but it's because they tried to buy the same mansion in Palm Beach. It wasn't for any kind of like moral reason. But another way that we like know that Q is not real, like just not a high-ranking official in the Trump administration, is because like, so I've gone down like a rabbit hole, and I've been going down a Q rabbit hole, but there's also a really good Reply All episode about it. I have the name of it a little bit later. I'll tell you what, I can't remember. It's episode like 166 or something like that, but it's all about it, like a deep dive into who Q is, and it just gets like scarier and scarier. Like, I wish I was finding out information that was like, oh, okay, I guess I don't have to worry about this, but no, this is not that. So the very first like Q post, they like took their baby steps on 8chan, either 4chan or 8chan, one of the chans, which is just like, even the creators of, so I think he was like really born on 8chan, but even the creator of 8chan now is like, damn, I really shouldn't have done that. Like, free, like full on free speech is just like a toxic place to be. It doesn't create like a good community, and I think we would probably do well to like learn from what he has to say about that. But they interview him in that Reply All episode. So the very first Q post was pretending to be like a high-ranking Trump official, and he replied to a post about how HRC was going to be like arrested the next day. And the very first Q post was like, false, HRC has already been extradited, passport approved to be flagged. Anyone who doesn't believe me should locate their National Guard member and ask to see their orders, which is like, yeah, cool. I'll just like locate my...
Yeah, let me just like walk up to the National Guard person on Michigan Avenue.
Right. Just let me text my fave National Guard member. But like, it's already disproven because that's never happened. Like, she never got arrested. She never was extradited. Like, she's just a nice old lady who didn't know how to use her emails.
There's like so many steps involved to get someone extradited first. Like,
and
first you have to commit a crime. You should be charged with the crime.
Right. No, but she, like, it's just these guys who were like, basically like LARPing. They were like just joking around with each other, like making posts like this that sound that like there were also like White House and on. There were other accounts, but like the Q one that is the one that like went viral and is so dangerous now. But yeah, so it's not true just because like that was their very first post and that didn't happen at all. So like why did this person like gain any credibility? But it sounded legit and like started to gain real credence like very quickly. So anyway, it's just not that interesting. Like, the truth is not that interesting. Like, she never got extradited. So in the Reply All episode, they allege, and like this seems so true, like, I wish, like, don't even listen. Okay, do listen to this, but like listen to the Reply All episode, like, more importantly. But okay, so they say that the QAnon account has essentially been like hijacked. I know that's like a loaded term, but by the same people who hijacked 2chan. So the creator of 2chan in Japan had 2chan like essentially stolen from him, but all of those claims are in Japanese. So like it still looks legit to Americans. But yeah, so the person who has like taken over and stolen this QAnon account is not just like a harmless troll anymore, which is who it kind of started out as, but it seems like it's kind of like a wannabe Breitbart, who his name's Jim Watkins, but he's not just like a weird dude, and that's how like he kind of profiles like the people who are interested in him, like profile him as kind of like a weirdo who sings like Bible hymns on his social media, but he's not. Like, he's obsessed with power, and he understands the power that Q could bring him if he has control of that account, which he does now. So yeah, it's scary who's like in control of that, and like who knows like what. It's just, I don't know. So anyway, the person who owns Q is somebody who, like, the people who really know him think he is scary, and like his desire for power is like alarming, but people who don't know him just think he's like a goofball, and it's like, no, we have to stop treating him like a goofball. Like, these guys are dangerous, and yeah.
Sounds like the president.
Yeah, it does. It sounds like, I don't know, we don't have to talk about this now if you don't want to, but technically we went to rival high schools, I think. You went to Sandburg, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're from Orland Park. Mm-hmm. That's the mall that I, grew up in, one might say.
That was the place to be.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing else to do in Orland Park.
Right.
Let's get that straight.
Do you want to talk about the Orland Park mayor at all? We don't have to. I don't want to get you in trouble.
Sure, yes. So, Orland Park currently has a mayor whose name is Keith Peacock.
Nice.
And he's been mayor since 2017. There's kind of been a hard right turn in the mayor's office lately, and it's unfortunate because most mayors in the suburbs are nonpartisan. Mm-hmm. Like, they run for the sake of the village. But pretty much he is just like Trump in a lot of ways. To name a few of his greatest hits as mayor, he voted against a minimum wage increase. He voted to opt out of a paid sick leave ordinance. He sued a church to shut down a homeless shelter.
Wow.
He has a defamation suit against him for harassing a former village manager.
What kind of harassment? Do you know?
Just like defamation. Great. Usual stuff. He had once he got 3 new trustees and a majority on the board, they revoked a Me Too ordinance and then wrote their own because they didn't like it.
Was it people were being held too accountable?
Yeah, how dare they, right? Yeah. He also has sued the governor to stop COVID restrictions. whether for businesses, and he's called mask wearing unconstitutional. That lawsuit has cost the village at least $80,000 to this point using taxpayer money. And at the same time, the mayor is cutting all social services because there is no money left to spare. So that's just a few of his greatest hits. The problem is, the people of Orland Park suffer. And the mayor has really entered into this whole arena of, I'm the best and no one's going to tell me otherwise. And if anybody's critical of me, I'm just going to attack them. And so yours truly has been a frequent target. But, I am here to fight for the community. We care about our values and putting the people of Orland Park first. And fortunately, we don't see that at Village Hall right now.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't like it if I was spending that much money on unnecessary lawsuits and you were pointing that out either, I guess. But good job. Good work.
Well, when you do clownery, clown comes back to bite, like Monique says. So.
Okay, yeah, good. I'm glad we talked about him. He has some of those classic traits of you wouldn't want to.
He's a bully.
Date this person, so they shouldn't. They things that make this person a bad partner also make them a bad elected official.
And there's far too many of those.
Yeah, there's so many.
It's at every level of government too. We see it very clear every day with our president.
Yeah, it's toxic masculinity, to the max. Yeah. Okay, good. I want to make sure that we talk about that. Okay, back to 2chan just a little bit. The right-wing movement in Japan is alive and well. It's very strong, and Jim Watkins wants that to be happening here also. But yeah, people, I don't know. I don't think people should be dismissing this anymore. People who believe QAnon are being elected to Congress. They, like you said, they walk among us. Ivanka went to an event in Georgia earlier, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago now, that you're listening to this, that was celebrating a grant that was $35,000 that did have to do with kind of stopping human trafficking. Ivanka and AG Barr went down there, and I used to work for local government. A $35,000 grant is small potatoes as far as grants go. And there's just no reason for both of them to go there except to court this conspiracy theory so that people can continue to say oh, well, Trump is doing so much to fight human trafficking. And it's prove it. So yeah. So those texts that Joe Biden was a pedophile were really disheartening. Okay, so Satanic Panic. Okay.
Do you want to talk more about how they've bought into that narrative?
Sure.
So back to me, it just shows that they have no morals. They have no platform to run on. They are running entirely on this idea of what will get them reelected.
Right. So they're willing to accept any support no matter where it comes from.
They don't care who it is.
Right.
They just want votes.
Right. And they know that QAnon is powerful and it's out there. So yeah, so they'll accept anything. I started learning what Satanic Panic was listening to true crime podcasts. It was just this it took over. It was worldwide that people who were prone to conspiracy theories really believed that there was an underground pedophile ring, and it was just people really believed in it. But it turns out that those claims that those kids were making weren't just improbable. They were actually impossible. So I think the most famous one was the McMartin Daycare Center. But there was one kid who claimed that they were really having issues with abuse, and they sent home a letter to the parents, and they were really graphic in their descriptions of whatever the kid said. So those parents asked their kids if that was also happening to them at their daycare, and kids are just super believable and will say anything. And they latched onto it, and every single kid was oh yeah, that happened to me too. And some of the claims were we're being taken in tunnels to underground whatever, and it was just there was this new era of believing victims, but it was being taken you should believe victims, but you should also obviously make sure to find the evidence. So there was like no evidence that anything was happening to these kids. People like for real went to jail, and I'm worried that that's like what's going to start happening with QAnon.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so the real issue with QAnon is that like once it broke into like Reddit, like believers have gone on Alex Jones to talk about it and stuff like that. Like it's in the realm of like boomers and like people who other generations that like haven't grown up needing to discern like which memes are funny and which ones are like harmless versus which ones are like successful propaganda. Like Fox News is full of it. Like I see people like my parents' age all the time who are like, they're like taken. They're like essentially like not even
You
members.
lose them because they're so bought into this idea that it's almost the government is bad.
Right.
That just like distrust of anything that comes out, which, you know, I totally feel with the president right now. But
Mm-hmm.
like in general, I believe our government officials when they say something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Here, it's just like, I feel like it's trying to find hope or convince yourself of a narrative that doesn't exist.
Right. Yeah, like there's somebody coming to save you, but like
Mm-hmm. And his name is Donald Trump.
Right.
And he is going to
right.
keep us all safe.
Yes, for
But,
sure.
I mean, we all know that it's all with an asterisk for like straight white people.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Who are probably also Catholic.
Yep. Or yes, some other version of an evangelical Christian. All right, yeah. So I don't know. I think it's interesting. One thing that I like definitely took away from learning about the creator of 8chan was that he like wishes that he never created it because he thinks that a place where communities like have totally free speech that's totally unregulated is just like bad and ugly, and he regrets it, and he wishes that he hadn't. But like, I don't know. He was.
There's
like
a way you can like have a social network and still monitor content.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook can't do it. They have proven themselves time and again to be incompetent on this issue.
Right.
Twitter seems to do it relatively well. They put disclaimers on Trump's tweets when he clowns on there. So, yeah, I mean, he can apologize all he wants, but
yeah,
it's where it lives now.
Right. Yeah, and that's how like Q got started, and it's run like it's episode reply all. It's episode 166, Country of Liars. Everybody listen to that. It's really, really good. All right. Well, that I think is just like the lesson that I wanted to make sure people took away is that like, please, if you like didn't grow up in a generation where you were like learning to discern truth from fiction, like you have to approach stuff with skepticism, or else like you're gonna be fooled, or you just are so like vulnerable to like Russian propaganda at this point.
And then how do we verify? Well, I mean, we know how to verify, but how do we get the QAnon people to listen? Like, is there any point where we could bring them back?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like they're leaning into the. Yeah.
Like they weren't QAnon supporters the way that
they're
like
actively
Ronald Reagan.
They're actively courting
right.
the QAnon supporters because they're pretty much like trending now.
Exactly.
So when you look back in history, like you don't have to go far at all. Just go back to the 80s. Like there used to be pro-choice Republicans. Like Betty Ford supported the ERA, so did Rosalind Carter. And then right around the time of Reagan, took a very hard right turn, and it was they're going to capitalize on the evangelical right because that is a very active voting bloc who, if they can get all of them, they will win every election. And that's what they did.
Yeah.
I hate to see QAnon follow that same path because they're flat on delusional.
Right.
So fortunately we've seen a few of them win, but the Tea Party they won a few seats in 2010. Thankfully, a lot of those people are out now. This could be a new incarnation of the Tea Party, but it's a shame to see politicians completely lose their morals and values to win.
Right, because, yeah, it comes down to, not caring about anything else other than winning, which is, like, not something that you want. And
that's what happens with a number of seats, like even Democratic seats. You get complacent and comfortable, and that's not the way it should be, because then you lose sight of why you got elected in the first place, and it was to make change and make people's lives better. And we saw it with Dan Lipinski, and he sucked. And now we'll thankfully have a congressperson, God willing, November 4th, who will actually care about us, and she'll do a great job.
Yeah.
And it's all levels of government. So if you're an Orland Park voter in Illinois, please check out that race. Whoever runs, got to get Peacock out of there. He is not serving our needs.
Yeah. Okay. Well, usually we end with self-care or something like that. And I tell people kitten updates, but I don't really have any updates. Just go watch the YouTube channel if you want to see the kittens. They're just chilling. They probably need to get vaccinated soon. But I'm curious how you stay engaged and don't get burned out.
So I work in this stuff, so it's easy to try to do the absolute most all the time, because especially now with COVID, I open my laptop, there is both work and fun. So my thing is, I'm one of those people that gets up early all the time to work out.
Nice.
So I run, and I never pay to run because I'm not a sucker. So sorry if I'm offending anybody right now, but I just run up and down the blocks of my neighborhood and along the lake whenever I can. So that's what I do. I've also been trying to cook a lot more because, I'm at home, might as well, right? So if anybody has recipe suggestions, send them my way.
Okay, I have a really good cranberry quinoa thing that I'm going to send you that's very good. Exercise is probably the answer that I should hear, but not, I don't know. Yes, okay, you're right. What have I been doing? Every 2 weeks I've been talking to my therapist, so I've been taking good care of my mental health. Oh, that's a train, everybody. I live very close to a train. Okay. Well, is there anything else that you want to share? Do you,
Please phone bank. Please make calls. We have just a few weeks.
Yeah, it's literally a month away, and it's time for everybody to make calls. So I think that's actually the perfect thing to end on. It'll be the first thing in our link tree. It'll be in our bio. I challenge everybody to get started with that this week. If you've been doing other stuff, that's amazing, but there's enough, more than enough texters. This is it's crunch time, and this is the most effective way, and it's what's the most needed right now. So
and it's the only way to protect our democracy too.
Yeah. And if you're so involved that you're listening to a podcast like this, yeah, you're the one that has to phone bank.
Yep, we need you.
Yeah, I promise that you're engaged to the point where yeah, you're one of the ones that we need phone banking. So if you have any questions about it, reach out to me. I would love to talk to you guys about it. I can probably even put you in contact with the Nick Antifa King.
Nope.
No. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me and for being an in-face person, face-to-face, real-life human.
I exist not just from the waist up.
That's crazy. I'm gonna text that to our group chat. Be I've seen it. All right. Well, then I'm gonna end on that note. Everybody, phone bank, join us this week. It's crunch time. So thanks.
Thank you guys so much for listening to For Your Misinformation. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast, and if you like it, give us a rating and a review. It helps us find more listeners, and the more of us there are, the better.
And make sure you're following along on Instagram and Twitter at FYMI Pod.
Shout out to Kyle Dibdahl for the intro and outro music, Hope Dye for the podcast art, and Ben Schlofelt for the audio production.
We come out with new episodes every Monday.
For Your Misinformation is part of the Demcast family of podcasts.